This is Money, Motivation, and Mike, and I am your host, Michael Wainwright. In charge of the show, the mothership audio engineer, Jason Wright. And hello to you, world. This is the show that will change your life. Please contact us at info@mx3.vip. And by the way, Jason, people have been contacting over the last couple of weeks, especially last week's episode. Also find us on YouTube at youtube.com/@MX3podcast. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified of all of our new content, which comes out every Monday morning. And frankly, people are hitting the bell icon. As of the recording of this show, Jason, 47,508 subscribers. And I believe that's up right at 4,900 subscribers just over the last week.
Fantastic.
So we are about to the half-century mark, and looking forward to that. And thank you once again very, very much. Lots of increase in watch time. Obviously, the subscribers. Podcast is always strong. We are getting ready to start the second half of our O.J. Simpson murder trial. Of course, we talked about the murders on the last episode, and now going into the trial. And I'll get into that momentarily. A couple things I do want to mention before we get into it. It's some tidbits that I have come across my desk over the last week. The Titan went down to see the Titanic exploded right at a year ago today. Or a year ago this week, excuse me. And I'm big on that. I've really studied the Titanic in great detail, did a paper over it back in college. Maybe we need to have a Titanic show. But the Titan, obviously big explosion that all five on board were killed. And what it's done, Jason, it has not shut down. For example, when the space shuttle in 1985 blew up, it was like this space program was set back for 5 years, and we weren't going to the moon. We weren't going to space. We were in research and development trying to figure out how that mishap happened. But with the explosion of the Titan submarine, it's created more interest to be able to get down to the bottom, and obviously at the bottom of the ocean where the Titanic sits. Obviously, people have been there many times, but the experts that are out in this ocean area and working that thought that they had where a system set up where anytime you wanted to go to the bottom of the ocean, all you needed was money. And now obviously that's set back, but the interest in making this happen, for example, flying from Dallas to Los Angeles, go get you a ticket and you can get on here in just the next couple hours. Simple stuff. That's where they thought they were going with the Titan and going and seeing the Titanic. Also with the space program, where these gazillionaires are selling off seats to go into outer space. Same stuff. We're there. Now, with that, come up that ocean health is critical to our health. 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by the ocean. That is a lot. 90% of people living in poverty worldwide rely on the ocean for their primary source of protein and or livelihood. 70% of Earth's oxygen is produced by marine plants. 90% of excess heat caused by burning fossil fuel, is absorbed by the ocean. Interesting tidbits that things about the ocean, and it's a known fact that we know less about the ocean than we do space. So maybe over the next decade, the next quarter century, whatever, the next century, we'll become more equipped with what's going on below the water and not what's going on above the water. Another little item here I ran across: the top 10 impossibly unaffordable cities in the world. Top 10. And I found this intriguing, so I'm going to give it to you. Most difficult unaffordable city in the world is Hong Kong. Number 2 is Sydney. 3 is Vancouver. Number 4, coming in at number 4 in the United States of America, San Jose, California. Number 5, Los Angeles, California. Number 6, Honolulu. We've had three American there in a row. Number 7, Melbourne. 8, San Francisco. 9, San Diego. And 10, Toronto. 5 of the 10 were in the United States of America, and 4 of those 5 were in the great state of California. Don't know if that tells you anything, but 4 of those 5. Now, in the continent of Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, 85% of the people in Australia live in one of those 3 cities. 2 of those 3 cities come in on this list, as I said, number 2 and number 7. And then we did have a couple of cities right there on the borders of Canada with Vancouver and Toronto. So all good stuff there. Now, this happens to me virtually every week. And that is people who put on a backpack. I've had backpacks. I like the backpack idea. People put on their backpack and then they forget about it. So when they turn, they move, they forget that they have a 8 to 12 inch thickness on their back. And whoever it hits and whatever it does, whatever. In a store this week, fellow walking down the aisle had on a backpack. Here comes a mama and 2 little kids walking beside the buggy, holding on to it. Guy bends down to look onto a shelf, turns, and knocks the flip out of that kid. No concept to what I have on my back. And haven't done this in a long time, but I have seen it several times. People wear those backpacks onto airplanes, and then they're going to put their stuff up above. And they're just knocking anybody around within those several aisles. They're just knocking people in the head. And frankly, they don't even know it. And I don't know that they even care. So with that, I come up with some pet peeves. Some pet peeves that sometimes drive me crazy. I'm working on it. I'm trying to let it go. And why are pet peeves, why do they matter? Pet peeves can reveal a lot about a person's boundaries and expectations. They often stem from a sense of inconsideration or a breach of social norms. Learning how to manage and communicate about pet peeves can improve your relationships, business, personal, social, etc. And this is where I come into play. Learning how to deal with those pet peeves can help you reduce your stress. I'm struggling in this one, Jason. So I'm going to give you some of my pet peeves. And of course, you already know number 1, which is the backpacks. Number 2, licking your fingers. I'm going to say 80% of this world licks their fingers. And I have friends that I do not go out to eat with because they lick their fingers. And you want to go eat some barbecue ribs with certain people, they've got that finger all the way down to the knuckle, getting it off there. They are literally putting the paper towel business out of business because they use their mouth. Licking your fingers is just killer for me. People who drag their feet. Pick your feet up. Pick your feet up. Now, this one coming along right here, and this is really going to hack off some people, Jason. I'm not an animal person. Pets in public is out of control. Service dog, we all went with that, and you can identify those service dogs. They've got different looking apparatus around their body. Sometimes they even have patches. I've even seen a little license slipped into a little side pouch for a service dog. And I understand that service dogs can and do save people's lives, but it has gotten carried away. And people think because they bring their animal, and in most cases a dog, to a store, that everybody in there wants to pet that dog. Everybody in there wants that dog to lick on their ankles. I'm not one of them. Pets in the public is really driving me crazy. I've got to learn how to deal with that. Isn't that great that the only problems you have in life is dealing how to deal with pets in the public and people who lick their fingers? I wish it was that easy. Now, this last one, and you hear this, you cannot go out into the public without hearing this, let alone into a restaurant. People who burp and belch who don't even give it a thought. About as uncouth as you could ever get to. But they do it. And some of these things are really wearing on Money, Motivation, and Mike. Jason, do you have any pet peeves you would like to mention?
Smacking.
Oh, there you go. Mm-hmm. Hey, we can put that right there with burping and belching.
Or eating with your mouth open. Either one.
Hey, it's funny. You will be with people and they'll sit there and not say a word. They bite into their hamburger and they got an encyclopedia of things to say. Yes. I'm with you. Yeah, we ought to get a lot of feedback on this one. I think the animal lovers of the world is going to send me. But just go ahead. info@mx3.vip. Let me give that to you one more time. Come on, jump on. I'm ready to go. I don't know. My children, my family love animals. I've never taken a liking to them. I don't know. I felt like I was scared of them growing up. And hey, our father always had dogs. The Cocker Spaniel.
Had a few of those growing up.
Yes. Sandy, Brandy, and Dandy were three of them. All right. Conclusion on these pet peeves. You need to summarize the importance of recognizing and understanding pet peeves. I'm really struggling. We need to get a pet peeve expert on this show. You go to work on that, Jay. Hey, if you're a pet peeve expert, and I bet there's a whole lot of people out there that are, info@mx3.vip. I'd love to hear the info for sure. And you ought to go to YouTube and see my expressions right now. So highlight how addressing pet peeves can lead to more humorous relationships and the environment. There you go. So you guys get on it. I'm ready to go. Now, back over here on OJ for a few moments. And we talked about the murders on the last episode of Money, Motivation, and Mike. And here we come to the murder trial of, you ready for this? Orenthal James Simpson. O.J. Simpson. That's where the O and the J come from. The people of the state of Texas, the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson. Submitted June the 16th, 1994. The trial did not start till January the 24th, 1995. So they prepared for 6.5 months. And it took almost 10 months to get a verdict, 9 months. October the 3rd, 1995. And of course, not guilty in violation of Penal Code Section 187A. A felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson. Not guilty in violation of the Penal Code, and a felony upon Ronald Lyle Goldman. Not guilty for first-degree murder. There you go, with special circumstances. Hey, you know, that's that old show Double Jeopardy. You know, once you have set on trial for a murder, you cannot be tried again for that same crime. And now, of course, OJ's no longer with us, and so that don't really come into play for him, but this particular murder trial, also noted as the trial of the century. And I'm going to say right now that it was the trial. It's the biggest trial that we've had, in my opinion, in the United States of America, even in this world, to where we are right now in June of 2024. But it was a criminal trial in Los Angeles County Superior Court in which former National Football League player and actor O.J. Simpson was tried and acquitted for the murders of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ronald Goldman. I would say he's more of an acquaintance, since how they've known each other less than 3 or 4 months. As we know, the two were stabbed to death outside Brown's condominium in Los Angeles on June the 12th, 1994. The murder trial spanned 8 months. Actually, January the 24th. So it was 8 months. It wasn't hard, just a week into January and just a few days into October. Though prosecutors argued that Simpson was they implied that there was significant amount of forensic evidence. And I believe there was, based on what we know. How did this dream team of attorneys go to town and get O.J. Simpson a verdict of not guilty? Remember, he was represented by the high-profile defense team, like I say, referred as the dream team. Robert Shapiro. Johnny Cochran did most of the talking during that trial. F. Lee Bailey, Alan Dershowitz, Robert Kardashian, the Kardashians' dad, who was a good friend, as we've talked about, of OJ's, Sean Hawley, Carl Douglas, and Gerald Ullman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Eight attorneys. And then the district attorney put up Marsha Clark, white female. Christopher Darden, black male. Also, William Hodgman. You never hear about William Hodgman, but he was part of that defense team as well. I don't know that he ever spoke, but obviously they believed that they had a strong case, and obviously was going in there to persuade the jury without reasonable doubt, especially with their DNA evidence that was contended that the blood sample had been mishandled by the scientist. So that's what that defense team did the whole time. You've got all these blood samples. They go in and say that it was mishandled. So they put doubt into the jury, into the juror's mind, as was this really, even though blood samples taken at the crime scene, OJ's shoes at the crime scene, a detective there, which we've talked about before, Mark Furman, who had a very checkered past as a Los Angeles police officer. They literally took the focus off what O.J. Simpson might or might not have done with the murder and put it on to how Mark Furman was a racist, a corrupt police officer, et cetera, et cetera. And the judge allowed that evidence, audio recordings of some of the things that the police officer Furman had said all the way back to 1985 on a trial that was going on in 1995 over a murder that had happened in 1994. 9 years later, still trying to say that was some of the situation that went on. And of course, now the jury was dominantly black. I believe 8 of the 12, and I don't totally recall, but obviously it was 8 of the 12. Now, the trial, as I say, is often characterized as the trial of the century because of its international publicity. Now, we'll take a former president that we have going on right now. We'll take a current president and his son. Trials are going on right now. And I'm going to say that the majority of the world, maybe even close to 75 to 80%, cannot tell you why the former president was on trial in the state of New York, downtown Manhattan. I'll also tell you that most people do not know why the current president's son has been on trial or off trial or convicted or not. But they know it exists, but they don't know what happened. It seems that 99.99% of the people knew exactly what was going on in the O.J. Simpson murder trial. And not only did they know, they had an opinion on how that came down. I believe that wholeheartedly. Now, this was such a big deal. Remember, this is going on in June of 1994. It's NBA Finals time. And oh, by the way, our Dallas Mavericks just ended their season by getting dipped by the Boston Celtics, their 18th championship. We did an NBA section here, episode a month or two ago, and the Boston Celtics now have more victories and more world championships than any team in NBA history, and with the Lakers right there at 17. So they go in. Now this is the white Bronco chase. That is Buddy's driving. That was OJ's Bronco. And you remember, if you don't remember, you could go put it on there and you could see it online anytime you want. They literally interrupted the NBA Finals and went away from, that would have been the Houston Rockets playing the Orlando Magic. So that's Akeem Olajuwon, and that's Shaquille O'Neal, who is still a big figure to this day. They interrupted that whatever game that was, and I don't know if it was game 3, 4, 5, whatever it was. They interrupted that series to go live to Los Angeles, where we got a helicopter race chasing the white Bronco down, I believe it was Highway 405, the old 405. The old 405 that Johnny Carson always talked about on his show. Coming in today, Ed, on the 405. Okay, so obviously that went on. The reason for that chase is he was formally charged on June 17th, and when he did not turn himself in at the agreed time. Remember, he had agreed to come in and did not. Obviously, he became a subject for the police pursuit and TV stations. It was crazy. It was wild. Okay, they're broadcasting this coverage live, Jason. How many people do you think were watching that live in the United States of America?
Yeah, it'd be in the millions.
95 million people is what the estimate is.
It's more than the Super Bowl, isn't it?
Let's don't get excited now. And frankly, I don't know. I know that the Super Bowl usually is the most watched TV show every year. Maybe you could look that up here. But it was, Simpson's arrest was among the most widely publicized events in the history of the world. So good stuff there.
About 115 million for a Super Bowl.
Really? They outdo OJ?
Well, you said 90.
Yes.
So not quite the Super Bowl, but
95 million.
Yeah.
Well, those are monumental numbers. And by you bringing up that Super Bowl number, that tells you, okay, you think about this. People right now are planning what they're going to do for this year's Super Bowl, which is not till February. And for 95 million people to jump on a TV at a moment's notice. Now, the World Wide Web was just right there at the cutting surface of people communicating through the web. But still, I don't recall there being a lot of online internet activity during those times.
Wasn't streaming much of anything at that point for sure.
So my point is that somebody couldn't go on to Facebook and post something and all their followers find out, and then they go post it, and you know how that works. In 10 minutes, the whole world knows.
Yeah. Well, the iPhone came out in 2008.
The iPhone in 2008.
That's kind of when, I mean, there were phones before that you could record video on, but it was very grainy. And that's kind of the start of when things really started getting streamed from a phone in any decent quality.
You know what? And speaking of that, you know, part of this saying it was a racial deal on a black man again, part of that is from the video of the 1992 Rodney King beatings, which was on a VCR camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rodney King, why can't we all just get along?
Mm-hmm.
Great words. That is a great question. All right. The trial was considered significant for a wide division in the reaction of the world. Observers' opinions of the verdict were largely related to their race, color, mostly. The media dubbed this the racial gap. A poll of Los Angeles County residents showed most African Americans thought the not guilty verdict was justified, while most whites thought it was a racially motivated jury decision. Obviously, by mostly the African American jury. Now, would you, if you could, while I'm continuing here, I believe there were 8 African Americans on the jury. Polling in later years showed the gap had narrowed since the trial. More than half of polled black respondents expressed belief that Simpson was guilty. Going back to 2017, 3 of the jurors who acquitted Simpson said they would still vote to acquit, while one said they would convict. 8 was the number of African Americans on the jury,
along with 2 Hispanics and 1 half Caucasian, half Native American, and 1 Caucasian female.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, whether they were all black, white, gold, purple, it was agreed to by both sides, and there you are. So, as we know, we've talked about after the trial, Goldman's father filed a civil suit against Simpson in 1997, and the jury unanimously found Simpson responsible for the deaths of Goldman and Brown. And we've also mentioned that the Goldman family was awarded damages of $34 million, which is $64 million in today. But as of 2024, they've received a small portion of that. And I don't know if there was any belongings or things of that nature that they received at OJ's death here in the last couple of months or not. So here are some of the key highlights of the O.J. Simpson case, starting from the trial. It happened on June the 12th, 1994. Nicole Brown Simpson, who was O.J.'s ex-wife of 2 years at that time, and her friend Ron Goldman were found murdered outside her home. Simpson, a former NFL star and actor, was the prime suspect. And by the way, 30 years later, there's still no suspect. I don't know that there was ever even another investigation that was started up after the October 3rd verdict of O.J. being found innocent. The trial. Simpson was arrested and charged for the murders on June the 17th after a slow speed chase in a white Ford Bronco, which was obviously broadcast live on what national, more like international TV at the time. Trial, as I said, began January the 24th, 95, and it was televised and captured nationwide virtually every day. You would go, the first thing you would do, or the first thing I would do back then, is I would go find, you're still having to watch the 5 and 6 and 10 news to find out what's going on. And it was the first thing that came on every day. So you wasn't going in there checking the weather, seeing what you needed to be wearing tomorrow. You were checking to see what happened today in the OJ trial. We've talked about the dream team. Robert Shapiro has always been given the credit of playing the race card on the defense team. And I'm not sure if that's correct or not. I know that dream team had a falling out afterwards. Obviously, Johnny Cochran had been what I call a big time lawyer long before he ever got involved in the OJ deal. But Johnny Cochran's no longer with us as well. Lance Leto presided over the case, and was very controversial in some of the things he did allow and some of the things that he didn't allow. Prosecution, they outlined evidence linking Simpson to the crime, including blood evidence, a glove, the famous glove, and of course Simpson's history of domestic violence. Defense argued that Simpson was a victim of police racism, incompetence, and that the evidence was mishandled and or planted. And they allowed that to go on. The judge did. DNA evidence. Blood samples found at the crime scene matched Simpson's DNA. A glove found at Simpson's estate matched one found at the crime scene. The defense famously argued that the glove did not fit Simpson, leading to the phrase, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." Now, I don't believe that the defense would have ever asked him to put that on. Why did the DA's office ask him to put that on? You had the glove there. A year later almost. It may be too big, it may be too small. If it was OJ's glove, he could have lost weight, he could have gained weight. Obviously, the weather had been in a sealed, tight bag of evidence. Who knows what that glove's condition was going to be when they put it onto his hand. Bloody shoe prints at the scene matched shoes owned by Simpson. Obviously, the Mark Furman, the LAPD detective, which racist remarks and a history of misconduct cast doubt onto the integrity of his investigation. We haven't talked much about Cato Kalin, but Simpson's household guests, or house guests, he provided testimony about the night of the murders. We have not really talked about that on the show. Frankly, haven't had a whole lot of time to do that. The deliberation. This jury was together for 8 months. This jury was put through the ringer, in my opinion. You basically put your life on hold when you become a juror in a case such as this. I mean, if you go and serve for a week, you've put your life on hold. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours before reaching a verdict. 4 hours. And I think I've told you this off the air. Some of the people on the defense lawyers, they were going, one of them is already headed to San Francisco. They were going on vacation for a few days because they needed a break too. They not in their wildest dream thought that they were going to have a decision in half a day. And of course, on January 3rd, 1995, Simpson was acquitted of the murders. The verdict was highly controversial and had major public opinion. Obviously, we talked about the civil trial in 1997, and then later in life, Simpson faced several legal issues in the following years, including a conviction for armed robbery and kidnapping in 2008, for which he served 9 years in prison before being released on parole in 2017. Now, that particular trial where they said that holding people hostage, had them at gunpoint, taking stuff that OJ felt belonged to him, that had been stolen from him. Obviously, the crime that he committed versus the time that he did was, I don't think they were equal. For a person who did not have an armed robbery or kidnapping background, gets 9 years. That's preposterous as well. But there you go. Was he getting sentenced based on what happened in 1994? My opinion is probably so. Obviously, the trial had a profound impact on American society, and the big deal was highlighting race, police conduct, the media influence, and the legal system. So we've covered some of the major points of the murders, the O.J. Simpson trial, the acquittal, a civil trial at a later date, O.J. finally going to jail over armed robbery and kidnapping, even though, by the way, on the kidnapping, no one was ever taken from the hotel room. They broke into a hotel room in Las Vegas where OJ said that they had some of his belongings, some of his sports memorabilia, some of his movie star stuff. No one was ever taken from a hotel room, but they called it kidnapping. It's just like he was involved in two opposite ends of trials. He was presumed he was shown not guilty when probably he was. He was shown guilty. He was guilty, but then given a crime of virtually something very strong. I don't want to say it was murder charges trial, but 9 years for going in and taking your stuff. Yeah, but no one really said anything about that, black or white. Anyway, Money Motivation Mike, we continue here, and your numbers that you continue to listen and watch on a regular basis and in a profound way, actually. We appreciate everything that you do. Once again, I think info at mx3.vip is going to get some action this week from the Cocker Spaniel, St. Bernard, Doberman Pinscher. I don't know. We may have to have AKA specialist on here to go, AKC papers, AKC, to go through these registered animals. You can always find our content at mx3.vip and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@MX3 podcast. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified of all of our new content, which comes out every Monday morning around 9 o'clock. So for everyone who's been a part of this show, Money Motivation and Mike, continue to live your life the right way.